No, I hope not. Then I'm going over there. I don't want responsibility.
All right, good morning, everyone.
We're gonna.
Members of the public, representative from the Sheriff's Department, thank you for coming. Call the meeting to order.
Oh, no, hold on, you gotta give me a second. We're, new system,
So I'm not the one causing the delay, huh?
that's right.
Okay.
We've just been waiting for you, Christian.
All new system here, so,
It's kind of warm in here.
I hope not. Then I'm going.
all right. Okay, and I think we are live, so you can go ahead, sir.
All right, so this is the July 24th meeting of the Traffic Commission, Rolling Hills Traffic Commission. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Could I have a roll call?
Yes, so Commissioner Rain,
Here.
Commissioner Virtue,
Here.
Commissioner Bobbitt,
Here.
and Chair Wilson.
Here, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll start. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, order of the agenda. Any concerns or comments about that? Hearing none, we'll move on. Blue folder, no blue folder items? Okay. This will be the time for comments, public comment from members of the public. Appears that there are none. Move on for that. Consent calendar. 7A, approve affidavit of posting for the Traffic Commission regular meeting. Could I get a motion?
I move we accept.
That was a motion.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
7B, approve the following Traffic Commission minutes from May 22nd, 2025. That's part of your packet.
I wasn't here. Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Excluded consent calendar items, none. Presentation, that would be the Sheriff's Department.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Come up and have a seat.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Deputy Mike Glossick. I'm newly appointed to the Lomita Station Traffic Unit. This is my first month being here. I've been a member at Lomita Station now for approximately 8 years. Done all my patrol time here. I'm a local resident from the city of San Pedro, so it's close to home, like patrolling the area. I have a passion for traffic and aspirations to become the traffic investigator soon at the Lomita Station. So this is my next job as one of the traffic, so I'm hoping to see a lot more of you guys here and out.
Well, welcome.
Thank you. So for the months of May and June, we didn't have any enforcement in the month of June due to just some of the shortages and the stuff that the Sheriff's Department was dealing with. We were running at minimum staff, but we do have approximately 9 citations for speed along Johns Canyon Road and Crest Road. All of those violations were for speeding. The minimum violation was for 46 and the maximum was for 50.
Could you hold
And I-
on just a second?
Yes.
There, it's about 6 in from the end.
Page 9 of 80 and 11 of 80.
Towards the front.
Okay,
Oh, mine's towards the back.
I got this page by itself,
There's
page
this.
11.
You should have, flip that over. You might have this.
No, there's nothing.
I don't have that page.
Which page?
This is towards the end.
What page is it?
It's 67 of 80.
No, 67 would be a totally different item. This item starts on page 9 and goes to page 11.
I see. So I have page 9 and then page 12.
Yes.
I have page 9. It's back at page 9. I have page 11.
67, though, that's all the cities around here.
That's it.
but
That's all
you-
we have for this.
Just the 3 citations? But you,
3 citations were for the allocated, the overtime. We have other enforcement between the motors and the units that are responsible.
now action, thank you.
Sorry about that.
All right.
So like I said, that was for the month of May, and there was no enforcement in June due to our staffing shortages and the issues that we had to deal with as a department. But if there's other comments and concerns, with me being my first month, I'm open to handling and trying to best take care of some of the concerns that you guys have.
So you've done patrol work in Rolling Hills, right?
Yes.
Okay. And
I've done a couple months back, but before I was a training officer, I would do some of the traffic overtime and stuff like that. So I'm familiar with John Canyons and like bugging whip and
well,
stuff like
that
that.
was going to be one of my questions. How do you go 50 on Johns Canyon?
No, it's probably Corner Road.
Oh, it's Crest, he's
Crest
sitting there at
and
Johns
Johns.
Canyon.
John's Canyon. So
Okay.
if they sit along one of the driveways or along the side by the tree over there, that's normally a good spot.
Yeah,
50's getting up there.
yeah, well,
I'm curious if the staffing shortages are being cured, or you're just
It's
short.
law enforcement as a whole, as a profession, is short. But specifically our station, we're gaining new bodies. It's just once the trainees have to go through the training program and then they get signed off, and then we can up our staffing numbers. So we're in the process of doing it, and we have about 4 or 5 trainees that are just about to get off. So that'll be another 4 or 5 for our station. So it's a long haul, but we'll see.
Well, there's always that question about radar training too, LiDAR or whatever it's called. And so you have people trained for that?
Yeah, so right now, I think there's approximately, I'd say about 5 to 10 people at the station that are radar trained. I myself am radar trained, and we're outfitting one of the cars with a radar system that's a mounted system. That's a lot easier to help enforce and to conduct that kind of enforcement. So that should be done in the next week or two, once that car comes over from the fleet, and we will have that car out and about as well.
Thank
So-
you.
go ahead.
No.
Have you had discussions with your predecessor or predecessors about the general concerns of the community? Do you have a feel for what we're looking for here?
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, I've been at the station now for approximately 8 years. So I get the general concern of doing the overtime and back here, and the speeding along the stop signs. Those are the 2 main concerns that has been passed on to me, and that I've personally tried to enforce.
I think
but
speeding is primary, stop signs is, I don't want to say it's secondary, but it's, the speeding. I mean, I don't know if you're aware, but we actually had a person arrested in the city several months ago for speeding.
Okay.
Arrested and taken away.
Oh, you did.
Yeah, he was doing 65 or 70 down Portuguese Bend. It happened at the very end of a city council meeting, so it happened right out here, so we all got to witness the guy being
Oh, okay.
all the way in handcuffs. So one of your officers thought it was egregious enough to do that.
That's a first.
Yeah, so normally over double this posted speed limit is something that you could be arrested for unsafe speed or reckless driving,
Yeah,
something
well,
along those lines.
The limit's 30, it was 60 plus, so
Yeah.
it's definitely over that, but, yeah. Okay, I just, we have a vocal community. There's not a lot of them present, but when they feel so inclined, they show up and they complain bitterly. Some complain about speeders, some complain about stop sign tickets. We get the whole spectrum here. But I would say speeding is just absolutely pervasive on Crest and Portuguese Bend as well. There's other streets, that whatever street you live on is an important street, and that's where we'll get the complaints. So.
No, I fully understand. We had just reached out. There was a traffic solutions company that reached out to our department, and they kind of dispersed it to each station individually to contact you guys. Once we get more information on that, it's a way to kind of keep data tracking and to monitor the traffic in certain areas of concern, so we can better target the enforcement and stuff like that. So once I have that information, possibly by the next meeting, I can present that with you guys and kind of run over, see if that's something you guys would like to do once I have that information
Well, that's
available.
a great tease. I'm certainly
Yeah.
intrigued by it.
It just happened Monday, so
Is there additional cost?
I'm not 100% sure yet. I just reached out to the company itself, and I just haven't had the email back yet. So once I get that information, I'll forward it along to you guys as well.
Okay. Have you heard of that, Christian?
No, but I would anticipate that any monitoring system will come with some type of cost. Yeah.
Yeah.
As always.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. There's no further questions? No. All right. Thank you for your report, and again, welcome.
Cool. Yep. Thank you, guys.
Of course, you're welcome to stay or leave. We're
Okay.
Yeah, if you wanted to stay, there's a couple other conversations they might ask questions of law enforcement, so.
Sounds good.
Okay. Discussion items. Consideration and discussion regarding vehicles parked within roadside easements and potential public safety impacts on major evacuation routes, as well as ingress, egress access on smaller roads. Where did we leave off on this? I thought.
Yes, well, I don't, have you had a chance to read the report or no? Okay, well then I will try to summarize. So at the last meeting, which Vice Chair Bobbitt was unable to attend, the conversation shifted a little bit once Battalion Chief Budovich came up and spoke, and we really kind of shifted into a focus on safety during, as he brought it up, during what were, red flag days, right? And the idea of how do we preserve evacuation routes and/or even on the, the smaller cul-de-sac streets, the ability for fire apparatus and whatnot to get through safely, or for residents to exit in the event of an emergency, right? And he brought up that the city of Los Angeles had an ordinance specifically for their very high fire severity zones and the canyons and whatnot. So that all that is in the report. I actually have their ordinance, what they did. I have some websites. The LA Fire Department has a page specific to this. The Laurel Canyon Resident Association, I put in their website as well because they also talk about it. And ultimately, what they did was back in 2006 or 2008, they passed this ordinance, and it disallows parking on a day where the LA Fire Department declares that it's a red flag day. Now that, if you remember, Chief also mentioned that kind of comes from above them. It comes typically from the National Weather Service, and then potentially the County Office of Emergency Management. But once the City of LA Fire Department calls that it is a red flag day, then no parking restrictions go into effect for that period of time as designated. So they installed, I believe the report says like 1,600 signs, but I mean, they have clearly a much broader area than we do. And then I'm assuming, they clearly have some type of, or did initially when this first started, an educational campaign to let residents know that, this is a safety priority to, again, allow for resident evacuation, but also allow fire apparatus to get in and be able to put a fire out if necessary. So to your point, that's where the conversation went, and I think it was a lot to ingest. So that's why this report has a lot of information based on the conversation. And I think going back to the March meeting really gets to the point of some of the concerns that Vice Chair Bobbitt had initially expressed. So with that said, it's back for continued conversation. I mean, we can continue this item as long as you need to, to kind of flush it out. But I think I've put in all the information that would at least help you guys come to a better understanding and, be able to flush out what do you want to do? Do you want to recommend something like that to the council for further discussion, and push out to the community for further discussion? Clearly this is not meant to be a punitive thing. This is really focused around safety during an emergent event. So with that, happy to answer any questions, and this is really for you, the commission to discuss.
Well, since I'm the one that really brought it up back in March, I appreciated reading and hearing about the focus on red flag days, because it's sort of, it takes, it really focuses on the problem days. We're always concerned about keeping the evacuation routes open just in case, but I think for the sake of the whole overall community, the way we operate here, that just focusing on a red flag day, it makes a lot of sense. At least, yeah, it does to me.
Yeah, one of my questions or concerns was, I think in a previous report, there was a reference to safety. The reason that overnight parking is enforced, or where it's not allowed, is due to for safety reasons. But, you know, the 1 hour between, what is it, 1 and 4?
Between 2 and 4.
2 and 4 a.m. That you can park, suddenly it's safe to park on the road then, but this addresses the actual safety component of the aspect of it. Charlie?
I just thought the chief's presentation was great. Your summary was great, and I can't see any reason why we don't recommend that the city adopt it.
Yeah? I think I brought this up the last time, but I'll bring it up again because I'm not sure how it was addressed, but the notification part, I mean, you know, those of us that listen to the morning news, you know, might hear that it's a red flag day. Those that don't, you know, get their news from the internet or otherwise, you know, they may not get that local component. So how do we go about notifying? I mean, not so much for enforcement, but this really is for safety reasons. How do we notify our residents that may live on Portuguese Bend that didn't otherwise know or hear that it was a red flag day?
That's easy.
Well, I think, as I mentioned last time, we have a variety of options. So the city and the association coordinate well together. We utilize Alert South Bay, which only works if you are subscribed to it. They utilize Dwelling Live, which is an e-blast format that goes to every resident. And we tend to try to share messaging, especially, you know, say in this past week where Republic Services was, you know, having a, they were doing a sympathy strike. You know, it's a quick way to let people know. Now, we have installed sirens, and we're still trying to finalize, you know, coverage, and that is, you know, ongoing right now between the board and the council with additional sites. So, could you use the sirens to alert people? Yes. Could the gates, the 3 entry and exit gates, have maybe like an A-frame board that goes out on both sides that says red flag day? I think there's a variety of ways we can try to capture everyone. And then part of the siren project was to give also the residents an option to have that device in their house, which would also be another way to get messages out. But again, that is contingent on a resident purchasing the in-house device. So clearly we would utilize everything under our belt. To your point of, you know, using the media, we could push notifications out to local media, Daily Breeze or local news stations. But again, you know, that might have less impact than some of the other previous mentioned ideas.
The red flag day is pretty broad. I mean,
And you're
it's all
correct.
Southern California, basically.
I would say once the NWS calls it, it's just a matter of whether the county fire, LA fire, you know, the different departments are going to call that at their local levels, and I would assume they do. So this would also speak to, I think, some concerns we've had, say, from Mr. Visco about letting people in during red flag day, you know, just other concerns. Not that we're going to that level, but it might be an interesting first step in trying to build awareness around what is a red flag day, you know, and what does that mean. Now, the one thing I would point out is the city is very averse to signage, and part of your conversation and or recommendation at council would need to be what type of signage would work, where would we want to put that, maybe on existing road posts, or, you know, how would you want to do that? So
Signage?
I don't know. I'm only pointing it out because in the report, LA made that investment through all the canyons to put up signage alerting people. Maybe,
To be clear, permanent signage.
Yes, yes, but maybe maybe it requires staff to do an audit of which streets utilize the most parking. So I'll give you an example. Williamsburg, clearly a lot of people park on the easements overnight, all day long, type thing. Now that road is a little bit more unique, say, than some of the others, but maybe a road like that, or where we see that there is a lot of curbside parking, would be good. But I think we would have to really do an educational effort before assuming the council was to adopt such an idea, before we put it into effect.
I would caution against using sirens when they're operational for something like this.
Yep.
Because I think most people expect that if a siren goes off, it's an immediate, evacuation.
I only brought it up as, an option, but you are correct.
But, have we ever talked about using the vocal?
There's voice to it.
Hold on, Judy. I know
Yes.
there is. That's what I'm asking about.
Yes, we do have the voice option
But I mean,
as
have we
well.
ever talked about using that independent from the siren itself?
No, usually it's the point of the siren, right, is to have the tone that draws attention, and then the voice message, and then repeat tone. I'm not recommending that we use the sirens. I was just kind of bringing it up
If I
as
may.
option.
From a notification standpoint, the association is getting new software for its gates
Right, you're switching from dwelling live.
to a thing called Go Access. And
Go ahead.
it's, and I believe that the association will have an even greater capability or greater coverage for text blasts out to the community to advise them of, certain things, whatever. So it could certainly likely be utilized to notify residents that it's a red flag day.
Yeah,
Just, we could debate this and come up with recommendations, and the city's gonna go through it all as well. So I don't see any purpose in us coming up with ways to do it when they're gonna do it anyways and vote on it. So I think we should just recommend that the city come up with ways to notify the residents and pass this on and get it streamlined as much as possible.
I would just say, I was thinking, at the beach, they put the flags up. What if we had a red flag at the gates on Red Flag Day, so that everybody coming in?
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
You would know. I
That's a
mean,
great
you don't have to say it, just educate them that when you see the red flag, that's an over, that would be simple without they could just put it out front, maybe?
Yeah.
Well,
That's mine.
Yeah.
When you talk to the city council, that's
I-
my input.
I don't mean to be negative, because that is a great idea. My concern, and that's for a person coming into the city, we have a lot of people that live here and sleep here, and they wake up in the morning, how do they know it's a red? They can't pull
Well,
their car out of the driveway, Those are the,
Like you with the siren, I think that should be saved for, when you hear that siren, that's serious. Now we're evacuating. I don't know. I don't think you play around with that one.
Christian, do you have any sense of how many red flag days are called on an average year? I mean, I know it varies, but I mean, is it 3? Is it 13? Any idea?
no, I don't, but I could definitely do further research.
I
It's in your report,
Is
I-
it?
that there are about 10 or 12 a day, a year.
Okay.
Oh, there you go. Because I would say it's not unusual for red flag days to be consecutive, so whatever warning is used, whatever physical warning, whether it's a sign or a flag, you don't have to dedicate staff to changing something. I mean, you would if the following day wasn't, but, it's really very little effort to put the same notice out again the next day, that the red flag warning continues.
Right.
And, Charlie's got a good point about the recommendation, because it'll have to go probably to you to do all the heavy lifting on this and bring an item to the city, because there's going to be questions certainly and possibly debate about this as well. So, if there's no other questions from the commission, I'm going to open it up to public comment. Judith,
Since I'm the only public.
and please try to understand is common.
Yes.
Okay.
Judith Haynell, 31 Eastfield. So I just wanted to say thank you, Ty, for bringing this up. And I think maybe also, can you find out if the sirens could work separate from, oh, right, no questions. Well.
But go ahead.
Anyway,
We'll try to
I
accommodate
totally
you.
understand about not wanting to use sirens unless it's really an emergency. But there is voice activation. So maybe it can be separated. But also, this is something that the block captains, a few of you are block captains, so this is something the block captains can also take up because they get, try to get information to their neighbors and stuff too. But I think it's a really good point to do something and stuff. And you're right about the new software, hopefully that will make it much easier and stuff. Because the example of Republic was really great. So, anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Jude. All right, so,
I just want to clarify, in case this advances on the signage, there's various ways without littering the whole city to notify of, the red flag and things of that nature, very similar to overnight parking in some municipalities where you put it at the entrance and exits of the major streets. So that, because I know that would be a point of like, we're not going to put a sign on every street. But there are ways to notify and minimize the signage, and then maybe be strategic if you have streets that are really big offenders, they would get signage. But you don't necessarily have to do it for every street. Instead, you would do it at every gate entrance and exit as a minimum to start the process as notification.
okay, thank you. All right, so Charlie, would you like to,
Make a motion?
yes,
Make a motion for the city to consider and ideally approve a motion or an ordinance excluding street parking on red flag days.
all right, I think that's, okay.
Second?
You edited.
Okay, okay, that's fine.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. Motion passes, carries. Okay, that takes us to 10B, consideration and discussion regarding electric bicycle e-bike regulations, prohibition and safety measures.
Yes. Good morning again. So at the May Traffic Commission meeting, Gate Supervisor Grindle, during public comment, brought up concerns that the association had with e-bikes, both on trails, on road, safety concerns. Right around that same time, and you'll see a letter in the packet from the association, there was an incident on a trail where e-bikers spooked a horse, rider fell off the horse, and so clearly, we already have within the municipal code rules specific to bikes, motorbikes, motorcycles, whatever, on being disallowed on trails. A lot of cities, as you'll see in the report, are dealing with the e-bike phenomena in general. So if we're cutting to the chase here, e-bikes, no different than any other bike, if you will, except that they are motorized by electricity, and they can go up to speeds of, I think, 28 miles per hour is a top limit. Some are pedal assist, some use a finger throttle, and a lot of cities are just having concerns and safety issues because children, primarily, that are riding them are riding at great speeds, typically on roads, not necessarily designated as a bike lane or marked with bike painting, to be designated from a vehicular standpoint, awareness of the fact that bikes are also allowed on that road. There's a specific term for that. I can't remember exactly what it is. A sharrow. At any rate, we haven't discussed this within the city of Rolling Hills up to this point. So the staff report gives you a rundown of what's happening in the South Bay, a variety of different cities We've collected information. We have some information in there on what the Palos Verdes Unified School District is doing in terms of education. And then I have also added into the report the California Vehicle Code and our local municipal code, and just highlighted different areas specific to bikes. This is really meant to be a starter conversation from your point. Clearly, the association has identified a potential issue. So we can have a conversation here today. We can also, this can be a conversation that can be continued. I don't know if you'll want to make any recommendations to the city council for modifications to the municipal code. If the deputy is still here, he might be able to speak towards enforcement of our existing municipal code and/or other ideas or experiences they are having in the other peninsula cities. But I'll leave it at that, and if there's any questions, please feel free to let me know.
Lots. Okay.
Yeah.
So the letter from Kristen states that we don't have, the city has no enforcement mechanism for trail use violations.
So when that is her assumption, but when we look at, and let me just get to the page with the city muni code. So bikes are considered, are still germane to the California Vehicle Code. And if they are riding in a roadway, they are treated no differently, I think, from an enforcement perspective than a motorcycle or a car, a truck, whatever. As it relates to riding on the trails, so our municipal code states, no person shall operate an unauthorized motor vehicle or bicycle on any state, county, city, private, or district horseback riding trail. And then I highlighted a further stipulation that that is page 63 of 80. So, and maybe the deputy can speak to this, but my reading of it, and maybe we need to stipulate if there is a violation of the municipal code, is that considered an administrative violation that would be handled by staff and the city manager, or is that something that a deputy could technically write a ticket or a warning? So that may be a question to pose to them, but it is a violation. And technically, say the sheriff's posse could enforce issues on the trails if they were so inclined to monitor our trails. I think you'll see in the report that Rolling Hills Estates utilizes the posse and the sheriff's deputies for their trail system in terms of these same type of issues. So,
By posse, you mean horse mounted?
exactly, they have mounted deputies on horses. Yep.
Are these sworn deputies?
Yeah.
Okay.
They've
Where are the horses kept?
I don't know. But they have, as a matter of fact, we just had one here at City Hall a couple weeks ago doing a photo shoot and a video with Sam ahead of the 4th of July. Yeah.
All right, other questions from the
So
commission?
there is a California law about out riding bicycles on trails like we have here.
I don't think so. I think that's
Said that.
that's a
I
city
thought you
law.
said.
That's a city code. I'd have to, I don't, so as it relates to California
So
Vehicle Code.
1064-160, motor vehicles and bicycles on horseback riding trails. That's a city code?
That's our city code, correct.
And so what's the penalty if somebody
And that's what I was getting
doing
to.
it.
I don't know if that would be an administrative penalty. I'm not quite sure, and so that's why I was saying we can invite the deputy up to ask how they might treat that. And maybe if there isn't a specific answer, that is something that we can discuss both internally and with the sheriff's department as to how would we treat that, and/or is the municipal code not definitive enough to specify what would happen in the event that somebody was caught by law enforcement in that situation. As it relates to the California Vehicle Code, right now, I would say it's a little bit sparse in terms of e-bikes. There is some language in there that defines what e-bikes are, but I think that's why you're starting to see legislation being proposed. Clearly, cities are looking for modifications to the vehicle code so that local law enforcement agencies have the ability to put some teeth into enforcement of, potential violations and whatnot in the roadway, and/or specific regulations related to speed, use of speed, education. There's a variety of conversations happening right now, but nothing has come to fruition. You'll see in the staff report, I put in a legislative tracker that shows some bills, and the South Bay City Council of Governments is, I believe, following 2 potential bills right now, but I don't have an update as to where they are in this session, which I believe ends at the end of this week. So,
Questions?
I think we just need to put some teeth in it if that's what we need. And I don't know who's going to give us all the guidelines, but we definitely have no bicycles on the trail. But if there's no punishment for it, that was my understanding from her letter, that the police could not give them a ticket or whatever. Is that, if that's what we're needing? Some kind of guidance.
Ask the deputy?
Yeah, could you address the situation to the extent that you can? Are you at all familiar with I'm sure you're familiar with the trail system, but the incident that occurred?
I'm specifically not familiarized myself with that specific incident, but it is a phenomenon across the county. So they are, as a department, they are trying to work on different avenues of how to raise awareness, essentially, and along with the state legislative, they're trying to create different laws. It's just so new. It's within the last 5 years. It's just e-bikes have taken off. All the surrounding cities, they're dealing with the same issues and stuff like that. There's not really any specific codes that we can enforce on it. There's so many different types of, the bicycles are defined as class 1, 2, and 3. And specifically class 3, which are the ones that can go over approximately the 28 miles an hour, are the ones that aren't allowed on paths and trails and stuff like that. I'm not too familiar with that specific, the 1064, 160, so I'm gonna look up on that and see what else we can do. The problem with trying to enforce that stuff is we have to catch them in the act, because it's an infraction, and if we respond just a normal deputy, we don't have access with our cars to go down those trails and stuff like that. So I don't know if there's enforcement from you guys that you guys can do after the fact, but we can't cite based on someone else's word. So that's something out of our.
How about pictures? When we had pictures of the bike rider, can you do something based on a photograph showing, and if you could clearly identify the individual that was him on that him or her on that bike?
So I would have to do some more research because I don't know if they would treat that as a misdemeanor or an infraction. If it's technically if it's a misdemeanor not committed in our presence, there's not much we can do because we're not witnessing that crime. Even if there might be some type of law or something that will come down the pipe soon regarding a criminal case that you could put on them for damaging the trail or something like that. I'm not 100% sure on the avenues. Like I said, there's a bunch of new stuff that's coming along with this as e-bikes there's more and more kids are getting them. They're becoming more accessible to the youth. And I know we've reached out to the high schools and stuff like that, Peninsula and the other local high schools around, and they're trying to do their best, but they're trying to come up with something that we can regulate and better educate some of the youth on these these laws and stuff.
So if we have a municipal code and you see somebody riding the bike and you cite them based on the municipal code, so you can do that if you see somebody doing it?
Correct.
Okay.
If we see them, we can enforce that municipal code.
Okay, so you cite them, you write them a ticket for violating the municipal code. When that gets processed further, is there a fine associated with it?
That'd be essentially, it would be equivalent to like us writing a speeding ticket.
Okay.
So
There's a,
that would be something with you guys. I think you guys determine the fines. I don't think we determine
Okay.
the fine or how that works. But that'd be on the cities. Yeah.
You brought up a good point. You mentioned, I'm trying to think of the term you used, but these e-bikes, many of them are very high, have high torque. And they can really break up the trails and do a disservice. We spend a lot of money, the association spends a lot of money to keep those things looking good, in good shape. So there is some damage that occurs or could possibly occur with these bikes traveling on them. So, but has that changed the situation when they're possibly doing damage versus affecting a horseback rider, something like that?
I'm not 100% sure about how that would affect. I'm not too familiar with horseback riding and how those trails would be considered damage. I would think more along the lines of if there was a way to enforce and ban it, and if they commit that crime, it all depends on if it's going to go like the misdemeanor infraction route, and that's going to come from the state or the city. I'm not sure exactly who would decide how that would be enforced, I guess, on what the statute would be. But I think if the problem is we're just trying to catch them in the act, and it's tough because we can get the call, get dispatched, and they're on the other side of a trail, and these trails you can get around the trails pretty quick, especially moving at a faster speed, and we don't have the means to get down to those trails and stuff like that.
Unless the rider was coming off the trail onto one of the roads, if they were leaving the road to go onto a trail, you couldn't even chase them.
Correct. And essentially, we've had issues where some of these kids, they just take off.
Yeah, right.
And there's nothing that we can do to chase them. So it kind of ties our hand. We have a hard enough time chasing stolen cars, let alone a juvenile on a bike. So it's our hands are tied. So it's everyone's kind of learning just because it's such a new topic and it's so recent. So there's not many laws into place. So I think that's what the state itself is trying to come up with and stuff like that. So they're trying and they're doing the classifications, but the classifications, we're not seeing a lot of the class 3, which is the high powered ones. It's more just the throttle induced that are around the 20 to 21 miles an hour range. Those are the cheaper ones, I guess you could say, that people are getting. And that's what we're seeing a lot more of.
Since their hands are tied, partially tied, and have to see people in the act, just something that I'd like to bring up. The association's put up some horses. They're what do you call them? Triangle horses, like the things up at the gate area to keep they've put up barriers to keep outside the e-bikes and bikers coming in. They bypass the gates sometimes, and so the association's put up some barriers. That's number one. Number two, since law enforcement's hands are somewhat tied, is there something the city could be doing to either somehow prohibit these bikers that get identified like on a camera or something like that they've been on the trail and they can be identified, that we could keep them somehow out of from using their bikes for a period of time? They're the city code.
You're
Something
assuming
that could
these
be
are
done.
residents.
For residents, you probably couldn't do much for non-residents, but if you had something with residents saying, well, so-and-so is caught on the trails, not gonna be able to use the bike for a while, or, within the city, I'm throwing this out, I don't know.
I think that would be parents.
Can or can't be done, but the city could be doing something that maybe law enforcement wouldn't be able to do.
Well, we have a city manager present.
I mean, our bikes aren't registered within the city, for example, I don't think, are they?
I don't think we have a registration.
No, I don't believe bikes are registered, and I think that's another,
That's a whole
that's
nother-
another actual conversation about, should e-bikes have licenses the same way motorized vehicles have licenses, so.
So staff, we don't have staff to go out there and monitor the trails. I think I'm projecting, but no. Our code enforcement in the future will start walking the trails, but there's no real enforcement on that end. They don't have the enforcement authority to issue any citations. I think a lot of it is about education and really putting out there an educational forum or a campaign where we inform residents who have children, who have e-bikes, and really share that information about why we want to maintain e-bikes off the trails. The association, truly, they have the cameras up. They were able to capture a couple of images. The community association reached out to the sheriff's department. I myself had the sergeant that oversees the detective bureau come out and walk, just familiarize themselves with where the various entrances are. But as our deputy had mentioned that, unless they're caught in the act, there's really no enforcement, right? How do you really catch someone? I think it's gonna have to be done in-house. And it's up through an educational campaign. We already have a municipal code that states, these items or these type of moving objects, like a bike or whatnot, are limited or not allowed on the trails. And we can work in tandem with the association to get it out there. Once we start looking at adjusting the Muni Code to issue some type of citations, then again, going back to catching them in the act. Yes, an image could capture someone that looks like they live in the community, or maybe not, but even then, we didn't actually see them conduct a moving violation, utilizing the e-bikes or going through them recklessly, right? There's a lot of different things that I think will also limit us, but I think we have an opportunity to really get out there and start educating the community. We don't allow them really through our community. It's really hard at topography to even ride an e-bike, but other agencies are working closely with the school district and encouraging parents to register their children to attend these e-bike sessions so that they understand the responsibility behind having an e-bike. Riding your e-bike 18 miles per hour on our trails may be fun, but it's not so fun when you fall and you damage your bike, but also you cause physical harm to yourself. And imagine the physical harm that you can cause to other people or large animals, such as our horses. But it's something that we can continue to work with the association. We can definitely try to explore what other agencies are doing, but Rancho Palos Verdes, they have a very robust ranger program. They have park rangers that are out and about, and they have a PCA 32, which allows them to issue a citation and hold them accountable, and there are fees attached to that. Palos Verdes Estates, they have a different framework as well, where they can actually impound the bikes. But these are police officers that are out there and catching them in the act. Here, the dynamic is a little different. We're very fortunate to know that the sheriff's department are out there working closely with the board of supervisors to implement other programs. Maybe having an increased posse riding the bikes mounted horses throughout the trails and trying to educate individuals that way. Not e-bikes, but I think maybe e-bikes, in the future might be a concept where they're out there utilizing the ATVs, and it's more about education. So we're exploring those avenues with the sheriff's department. We're learning a lot about our sister cities, Rolling Hills Estates. Just like us, they have a lot of horses utilizing the trails. So we're seeing things that works for them that may not necessarily be a cut and paste for us, but I think with the association, just really targeting a massive educational campaign and start in that fashion and try to build what we can do within confines of our municipal code and see what kind of teeth we can add to our code to really hold individuals responsible.
So, Ty, I had a question. Do you know, excuse me, do you know approximately how many reports you get a month of illegal trail use?
No.
Trying to understand the magnitude.
I don't, but what we did get were on a regular basis, e-bikers circumventing the gates, they're supposed to stop, identify themselves, and if they're not residents, they don't get in. But they've been racing through, and that's why these barriers have been put up, so that we limit the number of outsiders being able to come into the city.
So the barriers are not on the streets, they're on the trails, you say?
They're on the outside. Artie, could you explain?
It's between the operator of the exit gate arm and the fence that's runs along the slope there.
So can we see it? I mean, is it?
So actually, the fence is going in today. The guy should be there around 10 o'clock to start. What it is they're gonna put a swinging gate with a latch that you have to use to go in and out, and then extend that 3-rail fence to the chain link fence next to, what is that, Anastasi? Right there at the gate, so you will not be able to ride through there anymore. You have to physically open a gate. And then we're taking, white bollards on the guest lane and closing that gap between that brick wall and that gate arm. So that's the first step. If the guys come today, and get that fence in, I'd recommend by the end of the day, go and take a look.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Now, there's certainly other ways to penetrate the city, but I mean, that's, you gotta start somewhere, and,
Exactly.
so I appreciate that, thank you.
Yeah. But we had regular reports of outsiders, coming in, circumventing the gates. That's why we're doing this.
And you doing that at all 3 entrances?
Just at Crest right now.
Oh, this is Crest you're talking about?
Yes, Crest gate.
It's, if I may, I'm doing a drawing here, but if this is the gatehouse, and this is where we exit, and this is where people come in. Riders were coming around the gates around the side, so there are these horses type things temporarily up, but more permanent
Okay.
structures are being put in, is what Artie was just talking about.
Okay, any comments from the public? Yes, come on, Judith.
Judith, hey now, they're doing Eastfield. So first of all, I wanted to say thank you because it went into the Blue newsletter about this. But I was here and actually spoke to the person that got thrown off the horse when this last incident happened. And, I mean, she was pretty shook up. I mean, she had a helmet on and a vest, but she fell on her bottom. So I actually called her the next day to make sure she was okay, and she was. But she chose to call the sheriff's department. So the sheriff couldn't even take her in his car. Somebody else gave her a ride home, but he went to her house and took a report. So there was a report about it and stuff. And then when I have a walking group, and so when I've come to the gate, exactly what you're talking about, it's basically the pedestrian lane to the side of where the arm is. So it's like if horses can come in and out and stuff. But I think they've even talked about it in cab meetings or association about trying to limit giving out a lot of, besides residential, giving passes to outsiders coming in to ride as much as they did in the past. But that's, and I talked to the gate guard, because I thought it was down here where they got in, but it was the Crest Gate where the person, he said he just went zooming right by him. So how do you stop them? Yeah, so that's why right away they put those horse thingies there to protect it and stuff. So I don't know how much there's a gap at some of the other gates, but I think there is, because some of the relief guards park to the side of where the arms come down. So the same situation is probably at the other gates as well. But anyway, I think educational stuff like this is really good, and just kind of repetitively doing stuff like this. And then when we get the new, software, maybe periodically notices can go out more about it. So, thank you.
All right, so back to the commission. What action, if any, would members of the commission like to take? Or recommend or suggest? What are we being asked here, Christian?
Well,
doesn't
You are
really
being
say.
asked to consider and discuss, and then you can provide direction to staff. You could make a recommendation to the city council. It's fairly open-ended. You can continue this conversation to another meeting and just have some more time to soak in the information that's been presented, ask staff to bring back additional information.
I'm not ready to make a motion myself. Do you have a recommendation?
I was gonna say, if you can recommend to staff to dig a little deeper, come back with additional research, and come back with options on what we can do within our means, because we're a very unique community, and we want to make sure that it aligns with what we currently have in place and how we can improve with what we have.
I know it's too late for the commission, council meeting on Monday, but could we, for the meeting following that, the next meeting, could we carve out a little time on the agenda to discuss this? I mean, I know it's not premature necessarily, because the traffic commission hasn't made a recommendation yet, but I think just general discussion would be good. I think, I learned a lot today, and I think the other council members could also learn. I don't think any of the council members have kids of the e-bike age, so, hearing it from others, I think would be very helpful.
Sure, we can come up with something and at least inform the council that staff is exploring this on behalf of the traffic commission.
Okay, great. Okay, so the recommendation is to bring this back.
Bring us back and based on the guidance of the city manager.
Okay, very good. Okay. Next, we have 10C, consideration and discussion regarding resident request for the installation of guardrails near 44 Eastfield Drive and along Crest Road East between Caballeros Road and 60 Crest Road East, as well as adding slow-down signage on the major roads.
Yes, good morning again, Commissioners. So this item is before you based on a public comment that back during your March meeting, Ms. Hanel. The direction was to have her speak with the association because the commission was concerned about the fact that her requests required association buy-in, right? Guardrails and the easements, it's not our property, et cetera. The association has provided input, and I believe it's in the staff report, that as long as the Traffic Commission, and the council, which has domain over public safety within the city, deems that something is necessary or needed, the association has no issues with installing additional signage or guardrails, whatever the case may be. With that said, the report details, again, and the letter from Ms. Hanel is in there. There are 2 locations that she has expressed concern over as it relates to safety, one being on Eastfield Drive. And I do have some pictures just in case anybody wants to see visuals. And then the other site is on Crest Road East, between Caballeros and 60 Crest Road East. It's a bit of it's that little overlook as you're going between Eastfield and Caballeros to the north side. The other request that she has made is specific to signs that she has seen in the city of Long Beach. Clearly we discuss in these meetings quite often the desire for people to slow down, to stop speeding. We clearly have the deputies doing enforcement, whether they are on regular duty or through the supplemental overtime program. With that said, this is just being brought to you in an official sense so that you can discuss her concerns. You could also hear from her today if she wants to elaborate on her letter. And as I stated a second ago, if you want, while discussing, to see images of both the Eastfield and the Crest Road area, we can show that as well. Your direction at the last meeting was to have the traffic engineer, Vanessa, also take a look so she can weigh in. She did a drive-by the sites this morning, and this is not her first time looking at these sites as well in her time here. So I'll hand it over to Vanessa for any further color.
So I vaguely remembered East 44 Eastfield and 40 Eastfield, and I actually visited that about 20 years ago when Tony Dellerbush was your city manager, I believe. And the white paddles or reflectors that are there now were there then.
Are those
And-
the vertical strips
Correct.
that bend in the wind?
And the problem we had about 20 years
Be
ago.
in the dark and,
Correct. I would say it is a maintenance problem. I do not know the history of why they were installed in the first place. Even when I was involved 20 years ago, it was more of a maintenance project and making sure that we have proper spacing, because you have to be careful with those, that you don't install them too close together, because then it becomes like a wall. Even though it doesn't act like a wall, it feels like a wall. And so what we did then was replace, we gave a direction of replace the ones that are out there and space them X amount of time. Based on what I saw today, I think it's a maintenance project. There are a couple missing, some with wear and tear of wind and you name it. They're a little bent. They're still there. I don't know if they're still reflective anymore. Obviously, nature tends to take away the retroreflectivity of devices, right? With that said, I don't think this area, and for that matter, multiple areas within Rolling Hills require guardrails. The reality is this area, as well as the Crest one that I also looked at between Eastfield and Caballeros, are no different than multiple areas you have in the city. And the reality is we do not have an accident history. Yes, it is unusual, and you have very unusual terrain in the city. And we have used devices in the past where we think we need to give warning, such as the ones we're using on 44 Eastfield right now. They do not detour from vehicles going over. They just delineate the road more clearly, especially at night.
so are the paddles on Crest? Is that what you just said?
No, there's none on Crest. So there's none on Crest. There's some on Eastfield. And I did a lot of rethinking of a lot of the projects we've had in the city. And if some of you might have been around, one of the things we did to delineate the road very clearly, maybe like 15 years ago, was add the white edge line. The city used to not have a white edge line on the road, and it was something we discussed at length, especially in the smaller streets, but even the major streets like Portuguese Bend and Crest and Eastfield didn't have it. And that is a greater device to delineate the road. The concerns is the delineation of the road. It
I
is,
couldn't hear her. What did you say? What did you add? What got added? I couldn't hear you because you're talking that way.
oh, I'm sorry. I just don't want to be too loud because I have a cough.
Line? Is that what
The
you said?
white, yes, the white solid line on the edge of the road was added about 15 years ago. And like I said, some of the commissioners were already in the commission, and it was a lengthy discussion, not only because of cost, but again, trying to keep the feel of the community and not make it seem like you're outside the gates, right? And so we did that. So at least at this time in Eastfield, I would recommend that we just revamp the reflectors that are there, because it is an existing condition. It's been there and it just needs to be maintained. I would not recommend any, I'm sorry, I have a cough, on Crest, as yes, there is, a pretty deep fall there, but there's also a buffer. It's actually better than most areas in the city. And unless you have a true collision history, I have had some locations in the past where every 10 years we have a severe accident, but these are not some that I have been informed of anyway. So I would not recommend any additional delineators on Crest. I would just recommend updating the ones on Eastfield. And although we do have a speeding problem, we all know what that is, I do not believe adding signs that say slow down is going to do anything. And it's just going to add to the sign pollution in the city. So that's my opinion at this time.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commissioners?
I will back up what Vanessa says, because when the house on that curve was built, I was here, and there was nothing. And so those markers were put up to try and be a barrier. But at that time, when people wanted to put up barriers, we run into, there is no land to hold the support that you need, and you have to have your barriers so far back from the road for safety, and we don't have the space to do that on those curves. And so what we came up with was planting the plants that are there now, but they used to not be there. And that was kind of the, what would you call a safety barrier that we could have that would show there was something there. So that before, there was just nothing. And so they put up the paddles, but then we planted, or had them plant the bushes. And so those have grown, and so you do have a hedge on that curve now that used to not be there, so that people, their lights will pick up that, and you see there's something there. Before, it was just open. So I think because of the safety of not being able to have the space and land to hold the barriers, and we've had that on several roads in Rolling Hills, where we've wanted to put the barriers because of the steep drop-off, and we couldn't. So what we've done over the years in several places in the city are have people plant the plants and try to give a visual that there is something there to keep them on the road. But I remember very clearly when we put the side striping, and before that, in a heavy fog, people could go right off the roads because they didn't see anything. And so I think that was one of the biggest things that we did when you came on, was to get that reflective line. And then our other problem is being with all the, what do you call it, vegetation that floats around, keeping it clear so that it shows, because it does tend to get covered with dirt and what have you. But that is, I think, our biggest thing that we did, because at night it's so dark. And that was the one thing, because I had my in-laws years ago go right past our intersection, and they didn't even see the stop sign. It was so dense fog. So having that reflective is the best thing we can do. But I know on that curve, when that house was built down below, that was really something, because they were going to go right into their house on a foggy night. So that's just my history. Okay.
I just want to say the addition of that white stripe on the outside of the road, brilliant, really, I don't remember, I've been here for 30-something years, and I don't remember that not being there, but I can imagine at night, it really does
Which is interesting.
help. But I too am very wary of sign pollution. But I'm curious, Vanessa, you said putting up signs that say slow down wouldn't do anything.
No,
Why do you say that?
the reality of the signage in general, even speed limits, there have been case studies where they're like, install a speed limit sign that's below the 85th percentile, which is what we use to make the recommendation on the speed limit, right? And it doesn't change vehicle behavior and driver behavior, because the speed limit is defined based on what the driver feels is safe and prudent within the roadway. And that's why we use the 85th percentile. So it's not the sign is the reminder, because the majority, 85% or so, drive at that speed limit or below it, and it's a 15% that doesn't. But it doesn't change the behavior. It never does. We have warning signs on curbs because you have an actual speed limit for that street, but then the curb changes the conditions of the street. So we use the yellow warning, but those are not enforceable. They're a warning, and we're advising you to reduce your speed. There's a lot of people that still don't.
So, regarding the paddles specifically, I've never been a big fan of them, but.
Of what?
Paddles.
The white reflective.
But I do understand, the effectiveness, I guess, in some situations. But it reminds me that on Portuguese Bend Road South, Blind Triangle area, some paddles were installed probably a year to 2
About a
years
year.
ago, something like that. There was already some, but they were not maintained well. They were crooked. They were dark with whatever, I said mold, but it could be anything. So then new paddles were installed, and you know, it brought, to me, it brought attention to the old ones that weren't in very good shape. They're still there. So now you have a mix of new and old. And this is, you know, I understand the safety component, but now I'm talking about the aesthetic component of it. So if you guys ever find some extra time or money in your road maintenance budget and can either replace the old ones that are, you know, that are discolored, or the ones that are bent, or, you know, just to give it some uniformity, that would be appreciated. So just wanted to throw it out there. But it really lights it up at night, you know, with the headlights, the reflective properties of those things. And that's kind of a bad thing to me. It's like, whoa, that's just too much out there. But, you know, it does get your attention. It does show you even more than the edge stripe, you know, the delineation or the end of the, because it's on a very sharp turn right there. So, and you know, it's easy enough during the day to see it. Of course, nighttime it's not that difficult. But when you introduce fog into the situation, it's like, oh, now we're talking. You know, now we really need some help out here. So, okay, I'm going to open it up to public comment.
Okay, Judith Haynell, 31 Eastfield. So first of all, thank you for even reconsidering this, because this has kind of been going on for a little bit. But, so first off, about the guardrails. I understand that maybe you don't like the idea of guardrails, but I don't see how those paddles, I mean, to me, they look more aesthetically not pleasing than putting some kind of a guardrail or something. But the one on Eastfield by that house, first of all, I'm shocked they even built that house there, because you feel like you could go right down their driveway. But I'm talking about right after that, where you're saying where they put, where the.
There was nothing, there were no.
Right,
trees.
and now there are paddles. So I'm a little concerned that they're like leaning over. I don't think they're reflective anymore. And I'm also a little concerned when, if there is an emergency, that there's not a lot of room for a fire truck to go around. And, you know, maybe it would help them as well, because even the address signs now, if you order a new address sign for your property, supposedly they're reflective for the fire department. But a big issue is the fog. I mean, I've left city council meetings, like I'm sure you have, where even going up Portuguese Bend, and then when you drive on Crest, you can barely see. And the only way I make it is because, first of all, I've been driving these roads for 50 years, but, you know, I follow the middle line, you know, follow the yellow brick road, follow the middle line. So having something, I don't know if they can reflect that or make that better, or something along the side of the road.
I'm pretty sure that any striping that's been done in the last 10 years or more has been reflective material. It's got the reflective.
All
beads in it.
striping has reflective beads.
Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah, well, especially around those curves. So the Eastfield one is one thing, what you call paddles, I don't think they're, if I drive by them and I think, what are these things, you know? It doesn't make me think like, oh, this is gonna help me navigate this curve if, by God forbid, an animal goes across the road. I mean, like even coming here this morning, part of the reason I was late, they were doing tree trimming, and then I think every squirrel in Rolling Hills was getting in my way. So if you had to swerve, you know, you're in trouble. There's nothing that's going to stop you there. And then you're down on top of a house on chuck wagon. So, and then the same thing with the curve at Crest. It's, you know, I was really trying to pay attention to this morning too when I was driving here. You know, I walk that area a lot. So there's that one speck of that curve where it's really narrow. And again, if you have to make a swerve, you're down that Eastfield that canyon, and you're going to wind up at my house down in Eastfield. You know, I mean, there's nothing really stopping you, and there are not really any bushes. I think you guys trimmed there not too long ago, so it made it a little bit wider and stuff. But there is a spot that's really narrow. So I don't know. I maybe there's something besides paddles and guardrails that gives some kind of sense of feeling protected. And you know, it's like, are we waiting for an accident to happen again at one of these spots? And I was actually down Portuguese Bend this past weekend, and the same thing. You know, I know there's other spots, but like when you go down Portuguese Bend from Crest to come here, you have plenty of room. And when you come up the hill, you know, you're in an upward fashion but there's even a spot when you're coming up the hill where you feel like, oh, I better make sure I make this turn, you know? So these were just two areas that I just drove by all the time, and I just thought, you know, this is a little scary. And so at least getting, I mean, even if the paddles were shorter or something and reflective, because just standing up tall and kind of blowing around in the wind and, you know, and then again in the fog, are they really reflective enough in the fog? Because that's when I really took notice to this, to bring this to your attention, was on a foggy night when I came home from a meeting. And there's a lot of fog. I mean, we've had winter weather here in the summer, so it's not like a certain time of year. And then as far as the signage, you know, if it not, I was talking more about putting like a lawn sign, you know, like we do for our different events. We stick in these lawn political signs, whatever, around, like, you know, the Hicks barbecue's coming, you know, the snow party. So I wasn't talking about putting necessarily permanent signage up. I was talking about that. So maybe there's a month where there's like a traffic campaign or something, where just even for a month or something, we could do signage like that at the speeds, you know, just right below the speed sign. Because when I drive on my sister's block, that's where I saw the sign. And a lot of, I think, I don't know if it was this, I think Long Beach City, do you know what sign I'm talking about? Because I did give a picture.
I am aware, those are not regulatory or any California MUTs. Those are signs that people buy and they use them, but they have no enforcement capability. It's just, you know.
Exactly. But
Right.
when I saw that sign leaving her house, I went, wow, this is really cool that this neighborhood cared enough to put something up like that. And they've been up there, I mean, they're still there, and this was months ago that I first saw them. But at the very bottom of the sign, it lists all the backing to it, like I think the city of Long Beach and some other organizations or something, maybe the sheriff's department, I can't remember, it's like a fine line at the bottom that says it. So if it wasn't permanent, maybe there's a month, like, you know, there's like today's National Ice Cream Day. There's a month where there's a traffic awareness or safety awareness, and we could just even temporarily put them up and just see if it makes a difference at all. Because it is, I mean, I walk Crest and I'm constantly, you know, like, slow down, you know, kind of thing to people. So I don't know. I don't know if the sheriff sees it, that makes any difference in neighborhoods and stuff, but it just also, I feel like it's a neighborly thing, you know, to do, but anyway. And then also I told Ty that I thought I saw a speed limit on here, but it was actually on PCH in Malibu. There's like this steep hill, and so going up and going down, they put 50 miles an hour on the actual road. And it really catches your attention more than like an actual, to me, than a sign. But I know that you're a little leery about putting things on the road and whatever, but maybe there's certain spots in the city where that's possible to do, like, you know, especially going down Portuguese Bend. So, anyway. Okay.
I would like to say something. On the temporary signs, my son had a situation in San Pedro. Political sign out on the edge of the curb, the metal little wires, okay? He came around on his bicycle. They had it out too far. It caught his pedal on his bicycle. He ended up in the hospital with brain surgery. So I would caution anybody about putting that kind of signs, because you don't want anybody catching their foot and tripping. I just, those things scare me to death. So
Well, I'm very sorry for
I
that.
would tell you,
No.
maybe something else, but not.
Well, I
not
understand.
those signs you stick in the ground.
Maybe there is something else, and I understand, and I'm sorry for that, but I wasn't talking about sticking it in easements or in front of people's houses. I was talking about putting it right underneath, like, the 30-mile-an-hour sign, you know, where it's right in front of a sign. And also, after talking about bicycles, we don't really have a ton of people riding bicycles here per se, but, you know, even walking and stuff, so I do understand.
You just don't want something that people.
No, I understand.
People, dogs, whatever,
We need
horses, you just.
We need to bring this back to.
Please don't.
order.
Putting it right at the bottom of a speed sign
Yeah.
or a curve sign or something, so.
So, to comment on your comment about, on the signage on the street itself, that's something you had brought up before.
I was gonna bring it up, under number 11, about you know.
Okay, all right, then I'll hold my comment on that then.
Sorry.
Information presented, a lot shared. Any further discussion on this item? So is there, does the commission want to make any kind of recommendation or a motion?
I think, I'm not sure, Vanessa was talking about improving the paddles on the curve. Is that something we need to address if they need to be replaced
Right.
or whatever?
What I recommended is to update the maintenance. So
Uh-huh.
replace the existing ones. There's probably 2 missing, but update them on
Well,
Eastfield.
maybe we need to look into that for
So
safety.
is that something that
An
the,
upgrade for reflective and whatever they need,
okay.
and then go from that. I don't know. That's just my
do
recommendation.
we need a motion to request that the association address this, or is this just something you could handle? Yes, Artie.
The traffic issue, so that would fall on the city, wouldn't it?
That would be city.
So that's our responsibility? Okay.
We could work with the RTA about installing them, but it would be our cost obligation.
Okay, all right. Then, sorry, Judith. You had a lot of time up there, so.
I know.
Okay, then, would you like to make a motion regarding the maintenance of the paddles on Eastfield?
Well, I recommend that we have them upgraded to code or whatever they need to do, and request that that be done.
Okay,
I don't know what else we need.
well, I think that's fine.
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Matters from the Traffic Commission.
I have one. Well, several months ago, I sent a letter over to Christian asking, and I missed the meeting that I think it may have been talked about in May, but I had suggested, actually Judith sort of brought it up when she talked about seeing a sign on PCH that said 50, painted
A
mile
pavement
per hour
marking, a
type
pavement
thing.
marking.
And we have a lot of people up on Crest Road walking. That's where most of the walkers are. 90% of them probably are up on Crest. And we walkers are often going like, slow down, slow down. So I had suggested back in, I don't know, earlier this year about painting like a big 30s in a couple places, maybe critical spots along the road, just to bring, because I don't like the idea of adding more signs all over the place, but on the road, we have, for example, the horse crossing signs, and we have signs where showing stop is coming up, but just maybe up on Crest as a demonstration project or something like that. We put the 30 or something, but 10
So-
minutes ago,
Right.
Vanessa, you said you put slow down and it doesn't do anything.
Right.
So I don't know whether it would have any effect or not, but it just seems like maybe as a demonstration project type thing, putting a couple of in key spots, it might help remind some of these drivers that are driving 50 miles an hour that it's only 30 and they better slow down to 40.
So pavement markings on the road is a supplement component to the sign. For speed limit signs, you are definitely, it is fine with the California MUTCD. It is acceptable, not required, to have a complementary pavement marking, but it would not be slowed down. It would be, if the speed limit is 30, you would put next to the speed limit on the pavement 30, right? 30 miles per hour. To use it by itself is not necessarily recommended because, again, it's a complement to the sign. The sign is the primary focus of enforcement. And it does serve the purpose if it's with the sign. But you can't say slow down 30 because that is the speed limit. You would just put a legend that says 30 or 35 or 25, depending on what the speed limit is. But again, it's not the slow down component. You're just reinforcing, just like you do at the equestrian crossings. You have the signs and you say, equestrian crossing, right? It's, again, that's a not regulated area, so you give it greater, what do you call it? Just a greater notoriety with it. But what is important is not to have the legend, but to have the sign. So I would not recommend legends by themselves randomly on all the crests, but as a complement, as long as it's just the 30 miles per hour, not a slowdown, I don't have an objection with that.
I'm sure there's a 30-mile-an-hour sign at each entrance. And I'm trying to remember where the additional signs are. I'm pretty sure there's one in front of the,
There are some, and I can't remember either.
yeah, Eugene and,
Oh, Gene
what's
and,
her last name?
down Portuguese Bend.
Thank you.
They have, yeah.
Saw them
Hambo's.
both last night, I couldn't remember,
Yeah, yeah.
okay. So there's I believe there's a 30-mile-an-hour sign in front of their home on Portuguese Bend, and I'm trying to think, well, I've asked before about Eastfield, and that seemed to be somewhat,
And there's some on grass,
inconsistent. Right, well,
besides just at the entrances,
But-
I think
but-
there's some midstream.
are you thinking that at each location where there's an existing sign, to have a legend?
Well, I wasn't per se, but I'm listening to Vanessa, so
Yeah.
that might, changes my thought. But, there's so many signs by the entrances, I think the 30-mile-per-hour sign frankly gets lost.
Yeah, I would,
So, yeah, I'm not sure where. I'd have to take maybe Vanessa's recommendations where it might work the best. But you walk Crest a lot, I know, and so it's, I'm just,
It'd
my
be-
thought was maybe just try it out.
be fun to be
It's
able
not
to-
that expensive, I don't think, to paint, 30s in there, and I'm not sure who's responsible, who pays for it, but, yeah, we could get some guys from Carson to come over and paint it.
Does it sound like you would like for staff to bring this back as an item for?
Yeah, I think it has to get agendized.
yeah, and I think it would be helpful to identify where the existing signs are, to consider the location and how many individual sites. Are we looking at 10? Because I think we're only talking about, well, maybe, it might be,
If it's- you
Crest
might-
and Portuguese Bend, of course. Eastfield, maybe.
You come in and then the one up on the curb.
Bring that back.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any other items from the commissioners? See none, we'll move on to matters from staff.
Just real quickly, Dr. Margetta's seat, we have 2 applicants. It's been forwarded to the Personnel Committee. We'll be doing a verbal update at the City Council meeting, but the process is currently underway to get someone to an appointment, and we'll have more information at the council meeting on Monday night about that.
Great. Is that it from staff? Okay, well then, seeing nothing else on the agenda, I will call for adjournment. Thank you.